uh, which ones of you are actually using launches in your projects? Could you do a hand show? Okay, so I have to do 2 extra slides. Not too many of you. So what are launches? It's like branches, but for content management, it's a way to make changes in your content so that you can have a future publication. And it's available already for pages in AEM. It's quite a well-established feature of AEM. Some might say it's some of our secret sauce and some of the reason that many big customers want to play with AEM. And maybe a diagram helps you to understand a bit better about it. It's basically you have the production pages. Normally, you create a launch where you put a copy of these pages, you work on those, you edit them, and once you're ready, you can promote and publish them, and they end up on your website. There's also a flow that if you get edits on your production pages, meanwhile, you can pull those, you can roll out those changes back into the launch and keep it up to date. And that was working pretty fine for pages for a good while. But now Adobe is kind of big on headless as well. Working with content fragments, we needed to edit launches there as well because our customers require it, and it's a big use case for some of them. And we decided to do it in a different way than before. Just before with the pages, it was a combination of custom servlets, WCM commands, and all that. But now we are refocusing our efforts at Adobe, trying to put stuff behind clearer APIs. So that's why we implemented them as OpenAPI. And there will be an UI for them as well in the new content fragment editor. So that will come. For now, we have a few endpoints available. At least they will be available, hopefully, with the next release. Allows you to create, list and edit the launches, browse the fragments inside of a launch, and promote basically the content from the launch. And of course, when you're browsing the fragment, you can also edit them as well, right? And then coming up is a way to see the differences that you have accumulated in the launch, something that we did not quite have in a nice way for pages. Hopefully we made it a bit better for content fragments. It's so much easier when you have structured content to do these. And there's another concept. We don't have the concept of rolling out content from production to the launch. Instead, what we call it rebase. Think of it like Git. You can see the diff in your branch, and you can pull stuff into your branch from the production content. And creating a launch is basically just doing a post on the Adobe Launches URL, and then feeding it a list of sources and telling it if you want it to go deep and get everything that's related to that source. It will return immediately, usually with the redirect URL, and that's a job that gets started. And if you poll it, you will eventually get the results that tells you that your job was successfully completed and the launch was created, and it will also give you some data on how to retrieve that launch. It's, like I said, it's an async job, so that makes it out of band and plays a bit nicer with the whole cloud service way of doing things. And if you are specifying is deep, we are going to do a DFS search of the reference graphs for all the references in the launch, and we're going to pull all the related content into that launch. Be mindful that might be a huge graph. One of our initial customers ended up pulling 100,000 content fragments in a launch. Took a while, but it's doable. And during the copy, we're also adapting the references so that they point inside the launch. All the references for this graph point to fragments, again, from the same launch. And it supports nested launches, but in a bit different way than you would have with pages. In pages, nested launches would sit within the launch itself. Now, with content fragments, we're going to create a separate launch, which sits in a different location, but its sources are referencing stuff from the original launch. Again, way easier to understand if you think of it like Git or any other solution like that. And if you want to see the difference, normally you would just hit on a endpoint for your launch and then compare it with another launch or maybe with the original content. And also you can specify if you want to do only a partial tree diff or if you don't want it to go deep and search to the reference graph. It's kind of flexible like that. Again, that's going to trigger a job, and once that job is completed, you can view your results, and it looks something like that. You get a list of all the field names, all the variations, and the statuses for them. And speaking of statuses, of course, I told you before, you can compare to anything. You can compare to your production content. You can compare to content from another launch. And that makes it easy if you have like staged launches, stage events, where you have kind of the same content, but you have different edits on it. You can easily compare between those. And yeah, you get the differences at the variation and field level status. And based on the last modification date of content, both in the launch and in the stuff you are comparing with it, you get one of these statuses. If something only exists in the source or in the launch, if it's updated in the source, or if it's updated in the launch after the launch was created, and if it's updated in both locations after the launch was created, you get a conflict. You'll have to manage that manually, though. So when you're doing the promotion and the rebasing, we're not doing any smart merging. We're just copying everything over. On promote, you copy everything from launch to the source. On rebase, you copy from the source to the launch. Again, you can specify if you want to do the rebase or the promote against your master content, or if you want to do it against another launch, and that works pretty fine. And that also allows us to go around some edge cases, like having some orphan fragments that used to be referenced in the reference graph, but now they are no longer. And copying everything over from one side to the other gets rid of that problem. If you have another use case where this doesn't fit the bill, we'd like to hear about it. I put in some resources here. There's a Redocly page that's publicly available, and you could technically see all the endpoints, and you could have a look at how they would be. Again, not all of them are yet implemented, but the schema is kind of set. And I have just one more thing. We are also going to do that for MSM for content fragments. I know we have support for MSM for content fragments in the Touch UI already, but we want to add support with OpenAPIs. And yeah, we'll add endpoints to allow you to list the sources or the blueprints, how we used to call them before, and all the details, see the live copies for a source, to create and delete a live copy, to trigger the rollout of the synchronization. And probably the first thing that is going to come in the fragment editor, and that's going to be pretty soon, is going to be allowing you to modify inheritance at field level. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.